Once again, welcome. Another day that we are going to share something very, very vital. The time that we are in, the war against our children is deepening in the world, in the country, and in most circles, our children are most targeted, both physically and emotionally. They are being weakened by some of the things or issues that are not addressed very early so that we can be able to go on. And this causes psychological and physical effects that are negative. And so today, we want to see the traps that we should not fall into, especially when you are growing up. A young woman, a young man, as we grow up, we want to see the traps that we should not fall into. And one of them is pornography. Now, pornography is a representation of sexual behavior, either in books, pictures, statues, films, and even chatting, even the speech and other media that is intended to cause sexual excitement. In other words, when I look at a picture, whenever I pop into pornography, because that is what our young people are doing, and not only is it affecting the young people, it is also affecting the old people too. And so when I tap in and my mind sets up that I want to see or I want to go to the site of pornography, what does it do to my life? In fact, it is said that pornography is one of the most searched icons or terms in the internet. And why do we search it? Or why do the young people search it in the internet? It is because it is the norm. People are introducing one another into the negative aspects of life. And so, pornography becomes a trap that is trapping our young children, our young daughters and sons, and they are entering pornography when they do not know what exactly they are doing. And that is why Philippians chapter 4 verse 8 says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, is there any excellence? If there is anything worthy of praise, think about those things." The Bible says that we should think about those things that are honorary. Honorary means things that cannot embarrass you. I want to start by saying pornography itself is very shameful and it is not honorary. And that is why when our children get to it, there are adverse negative effects that they lose the track on how they are supposed to be. And so today, we are going to see the dangers of pornography. So the dangers of pornography is that it affects the mind, it affects the soul, and it affects the body. So the whole structure, that the way God has built it, is destroyed by one icon that is called pornography. Number one, addiction. The addiction of pornography is very, very dangerous. That's one danger of pornography. When you become addicted, you actually become abnormally strong. You have abnormally strong craving. It can be psychological or it can be physical. But you have an abnormal craving of something. That is what we are calling addiction. So when you are addicted to it, you tend not to leave it. It is something that sticks in you, that even when you are doing anything else, be it studies, be it cooking, be it anything else that you are undergoing, you know or you think about going to that site to see what you normally like seeing. And so that one becomes addiction, which is very, very dangerous in our life. Now, number 2, we spend a lot of time uselessly. We spend a lot of time that would have been used for a certain positive thing. We spend a lot of it in hooking ourselves, and we mismanage our time. When we hook ourselves in pornography, we actually waste a lot of time. How do we waste a lot of time? In seeing scenes that are not important and leaving the time that we would have used positively to be used badly. So pornography is something that distracts our time. It causes us to mismanage time. And that is how we see that we are not able to do well maybe in school. We are not able to use our time well the way it is supposed to be stipulated. And so we realize that there is that mismanagement of time. And then number 3, it disorients the mind. Disorienting the mind in such a way that we lack concentration. We lack concentration in studies. We lack concentration in the duties that we are supposed to do. For example, you are left at home and you are given some chores to do. And instead of doing the chores that you're supposed to do, either maybe tidying up the house and weeding maybe some flowers outside the house, and other chores, even cleaning the car, and your parents have entrusted you to such chores. But then you realize that because you are stuck, you are addicted to pornography, then it brings a mind that I can use this time when my parents are not there. Of course, because when we are doing it, we do it in secretive areas. No one will like to be seen that he watches or she watches pornography. But you see, in those secret areas, we hide because we do not want to be seen. So that is also a disorientation of mind. We lack concentration of the basic things, of the necessary things that we are supposed to do. James chapter 1, verse 14 to 15, the Bible says, "But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after the desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is full grown, it gives birth to death." So when sin grows, it gives birth to death. Now, when you look at this pornography issue, it is something that is conceived in your mind. And when it is conceived in your mind, you are now dragged away from the good things to those that are evil desires. And you are now enticed into doing things that are not supposed to be. Imagine if you look at a pornography of people, maybe those that do their evil things, or let's talk about it, the sex in pornography. They do it as it is a show, and then you look at it until the end. Does your body change? Yes, your body changes, and because you are a human being, that you have been created in a way that if you are ignited, you are able to respond. So your response comes out. And that is how you are seeing that we have so many rapists around. Small children are being vulnerable because once maybe a young person has gone in those ways of checking the pornography. He goes out and meets with a small girl. And because the mind has been ignited, then you'll find that man looking for the small girls. You'll find that girl even looking for others to satisfy now the body, because the soul and the mind have been distracted. And so that is why the Bible tells us that sin gives birth. It gives birth when it is full grown to death. In other words, we are saying when you start now doing those acts, you now get yourself in the hands of the, you get yourself into the hands of people that are being taken to jail because you have done this. You've become a culprit of sin. And so that is why we are saying that each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil. Seeing pornography is not something right. It is actually evil. So the evil will lead you to act, and that act will lead you to death. Now, pornography can lead to gazing and lesbians. Lesbians, the relationships between a girl and a girl, and gazing, the relationship between a man and a man, which is actually naturally not intended to. But you realize because of the evil mind, they have those postings that lead you, when you see them, you also want to practice them. And when you practice them, it becomes an addiction. And you say to us, or to those people who see these things, they think or they know that it is not socially correct. So what we do is that we are not fitting in the society. Imagine of the cases that are happening, that a boy marries a boy and a girl marries a girl. It is actually not even a norm, and it is not according to the creation, the one that was intended by God. But because of pornography, we realize that we are having such things, or such that we have very dishonesty and deceptive people. Yeah, they marry and they conduct maybe a wedding, which is a wedding in quote. But because they are also looking for a child, they will have some other forms of arrangement, that they are two, but they need a child. They will have another girl somewhere, which means they are not complete, which means it is not the idea of God. And so that is why we are saying these gaysism and lesbians, they are brought about by watching this pornography. Otherwise, it was not in Africa. It was not intended. That was not our social norm. It is not even biblical. Then it affects one's emotional life. How does it affect us emotionally? When I am practicing such, or I am seeing the pornography, emotionally I'll be distracted, such that even in the house, by the way, a parent can tell when the child is practicing that, because that child becomes so secretive. And it is important for us to note, the caregivers and the parents, that the secret books that are also found in schools should actually not be entertained. You remember those secretive diaries that they have? You know, we have some secretive diaries that we see. It is completely locked. You cannot open as a parent. It is good to follow what is happening inside those diaries, because the pornography issues are starting very early, even in the ages of grade 3 and grade 2s. They are enticed by the older ones. And so we have to be very careful about what our children do. Now, early pregnancies occur due to watching pornography. How do they occur? I was talking to a boy one time, a young man, and the young man told me a story of how he entered into gazing. And what happened is that he started scrolling those sites, and he found them very enticing. And actually he told me that I was seeing them so that I can be able to know what happens, so that I can be able to teach others. But remember this, that whatever you see is what is created in your mind. And after being created into your mind, then it becomes an action. It gives birth to an action. And what happens is, when I have seen it, like that boy was sharing with me, and I felt very sad because I asked the boy, do your parents know? And he told me no. And because I had a lot of pity on this boy, I went through with him until we came to a point where he understood himself. And he told me he watched, and then from there, he started now looking for pen pals. There were those pen pals that used to be friends that are away. And when he engaged with such pen pals, he found that the person wanted them to come together so that they can practice this. And the boy came from a poor family, and so the boy was enticed by money, and he entered into it. It was very, very difficult because he ended up even running from home and went away because he was feeling he was doing the wrong thing because the parents would not have entertained that. And so he suffered outside. And when I met him, he was literally not in the family. And what happened? I had to talk to him so that he can come out of it, accept the situation. It was a hard time, but eventually the boy recovered, but it goes gradually. And so that is why we are saying it is a very, very dangerous sport. It is a very dangerous place to be, or it is a dangerous act to do. This will also cause early pregnancies. Imagine you go through all that, watching the pornography, the sex is done, the evil things are done, and then all of a sudden, what do? Maybe you are seated there and watching your friend, who is even your sister, or your friend that is in the house, or even the house girl. Both of you will try or will do, or that your body will lead you to that. So what you will do is you will have unsecure or unsafe sex, and then when it happens, what will happen is you will start now nursing early pregnancies. And when you start nursing early pregnancies, you are left out by the others. They go on to school, they go along with their schooling, you are left, and maybe your future is distracted. So let's see it as something that is quite destructive, that can destroy our lives. It is also very expensive. Did you know that pornography takes a lot of your time on data? You keep on scrolling. You keep on scrolling. What you're doing is you're using a lot of money on data. That money would have helped you to do something else, something that is good, something that will help your life, something that will improve you. Imagine you are keeping on the site of pornography. What if you kept on the site of an English teacher that is online? It will help you build your mind. But with pornography, it will distract your mind, and it will use a lot of money. It will use a lot of data. So we can also cut out the usage of data, and we can be able to do something else that is useful with that data. Pornography can easily lure you and become a culprit. How can you become a culprit? These people that set those sites, they are sites that tell you, send your photos when you are nude. Send your photos when you are doing the act of sex. Or send your photos when you are naked. And you know innocently, because you are now, or you have seen others said, you start now sending also. But little do you know that it can also be very, very dangerous for you. Because those people can also use those very pictures or those very photos. They can use them to manipulate you. They can use them to blackmail you. For example, said 1 million shillings or said 100,000 shillings. And if you don't want to say, I will put your photos in the Facebook. And you see, you feel threatened. You now start asking yourself, why did I do this? And most people have suffered this. You are asked, you sent 20,000 shillings, or I said all the photos that you have sent in Facebook. And because you are fearing, now it puts your life into danger. You become a culprit. You become somebody who is not, you are not able to move around with your pride, with your head high, because there is something that is pulling you down. Now, in this case, some of the children or some of the young people, you hear them committing suicide because they don't want to tell their parents what is happening. Maybe you are asked or you are blackmailed and you don't want to share it out. How did it happen? What happened that you reached there? And because you are ashamed and you cannot share these things, you hear so-and-so committed suicide, so-and-so threw himself over the stairs, such things. And then people keep on asking, what happened? It is because somebody indulged in some of the things that are not supposed to be done. So, in our lesson today, or what we have discussed, we have seen that pornography is an issue that is overflowing in our nation. And for us to be able to keep off, we will be able to read the word of God, or we are able to tell our bodies or to tell our minds to stay away from being impure. Like the lesson that we learned last week about keeping ourselves pure. We have no otherwise than to keep ourselves pure. And that is why I said in Philippians 4:8, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, those are the things that we should think about. So we can see that pornography is not commendable. It is shameless to our lives. And so the earlier we stop it, the better, so that we cannot be followed by all those things that we have discussed. And therefore our minds will be pure and we shall live a comfortable life. A life that is full of energy, a life that is full of fulfilling what the Bible tells us to do. So those are the dangers of pornography, and therefore I believe we can be able to be out of them. If you have been practicing that, let's stop it there and now start healing. If you have not started, please never start. Avoid those spots completely and do not be distracted by the peer pressure. You find somebody doing it, please tell them it has its own disadvantages and tell them the disadvantages as we grow up together. And it's from me. Bye-bye. Watch out for our next episode on the dangers of pornography. Thank you.